Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this important announcement regarding the Kelowna International Airport. It's actually great to see people in person as opposed to on video screens and everything else, which is great. I'm speaking to you today from the traditional territory of the Syilx Okanagan people. My name is Sam Samadar. I'm the Airport Director of Kelowna International Airport and also your host today. It's my pleasure to welcome the Honourable Harjit Sajjan, His Worship City of Kelowna Mayor Colin Bazran, and Monette Pasher, the Interim President of the Canadian Airports Council. I'd like to begin today's proceedings by inviting the Minister of International Development and Minister responsible for the Pacific Economic Development Agency of Canada and Member of Parliament for Vancouver South, the Honourable Harjit Sajjan.
We have to go through this procedure, getting all the masks off. Get ready. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous. And thank you, Sam, for having us here today. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the traditional unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx people. And I also want to recognize His Worship, Mayor Bazran. Good to see you again, my friend. Also, Sam, as we had mentioned, I got to know Sam for a number of years from my past. I'm one of the interim president of the Canadian Airports Council. It is really nice to be back in Kelowna. My wife and my kids, we spent a lot of time in Soyuz as my kids were when they were young. So I just want to mention that Kelowna. This is my first time in person as the minister responsible for the Pacific Economic Development Agency of Canada, and it's called PacificCan for short. And this is in addition to my responsibility as Minister of International Development. Now, last year we announced that we are taking a new approach to economic development in British Columbia by creating a dedicated regional economic development agency for our province. Now, it recognizes that BC has a unique and dynamic economy with our own strengths and our own challenges. And with the launch of PacificCan, BC businesses and communities now have a dedicated federal partner to rely on and also to reach out to. And with the opening of the new service locations around British Columbia, including right here in Kelowna, we're going to be on the ground ready to help as you grow and develop your businesses. And I will continue to champion investments in British Columbia and represent BC's interests in Ottawa. And we also know that the COVID-19 pandemic has proven to be a long and winding road for everyone. And though it has been a tough few years for our sectors in BC, the regional air transportation has been among the sectors hardest hit. So we have had reduced and suspended air transport services that has affected our friends and our families, the communities and businesses who also depend on it, and those traveling throughout our province. And with geography like British Columbia, air transportation is essential for our well-being in supporting jobs and driving business growth. It is why today that I'm announcing more than $18.8 million in Regional Air Transportation Initiative, in short for RADI, funding to 13 recipients throughout British Columbia. Now, this also includes $3.2 million right here for the Kelowna International Airport. And now this funding will maintain vital links between communities and families and keep businesses connected to their customers and suppliers. And also by ensuring our airports are critical regional transportation hubs that remain sustainable, that will continue to drive economic growth across our province. And we know that we need to drive growth across the province. And this is why we're supporting Dease Lake Airport, Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot, City of Abbotsford, Town of Smithers, City of Williams Lake, Pacific Coastal Airlines, Central Mountain Air, West Kootenay Regional Airport, Canadian Rockies International Airport, Northern Rockies Regional Airport, the Caribou Regional District, and Quesnel Regional Airport as well. And I'd also like to say I've been to most of these places because I used to live in 100 Mile House when I was small. So this funding will allow airports and our air carriers to restore impacted services and jobs as we move into the recovery phase of the pandemic. Now, these 13 projects will not only stimulate the local economy, but also help Canada as a whole build back even stronger. This investment shows our commitment to support economic development across the country and right here in British Columbia, helping build a sustainable and inclusive growth for everyone. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Minister Sajjan, for sharing that great news with us. It's very much appreciated. I'd now like to turn the floor over to His Worship, City of Kelowna Mayor Colin Basran, and the Chair of our Airport Advisory Committee. Your Worship.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces for this really terrific announcement for our community. I, too, would like to acknowledge that we were gathered this morning on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan people. And I'm really pleased to have the Minister here. He has been a champion of Kelowna since I've had the opportunity to start working with him. And I also just want to give a quick shout out to our former MP, Stephen Fuhr, who helped facilitate and introduce us. And he was hoping to be here, but unfortunately isn't able to. But this is happening for a couple of different reasons. One, because we have a federal government who's being responsive to some of the needs in our community and really appreciate that. And again, really appreciate the great relationship that the Minister and I and the City of Kelowna have, as well as because of the great team that Sam has here at the airport and the City of Kelowna staff as well. And also because of the champions of our community like our friends at Big White and KF Aero and others who have believed in what we're doing here, and we're all working together to really continue to strengthen the economy here. And so I want to thank everybody who's been a part of helping make this happen. As you know, Kelowna International Airport is one of our community's most important assets, and that goes for the entire Okanagan Valley. Over decades, YLW has become a shining legacy of past decisions that helped build and expand this facility. And as you may be aware, and you've probably seen on some of the marketing around the building, is that 2022 marks the 75 years of air service at YLW, a history that has helped shape our region into the progressive entrepreneurial place it is today. This airport, along with its partners in aerospace, air service, and other commercial services, continues to grow and exceed demand year in and year out, almost in defiance of the economic circumstances. YLW has exciting market opportunities as an economic engine for the region. However, to take advantage of these opportunities, it will require significant investments like the one made today, and that is why this announcement by Minister Sajjan is so vitally important to economic recovery here in the Okanagan. I'd like to thank the Minister for recognizing the wisdom of these investments in British Columbia and in YLW, investments that will produce exponential benefits throughout this region for many years to come. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's now my pleasure to welcome Monette Pasher, the Interim Chair of the Canadian Airports Council. Monette?
Thank you, Sam. I'm honored to be here with you today, and I have to say it was really nice to get on an airplane and come to an in-person announcement. So many of these have been via Zoom, so it's just really great to be here in person. Thank you, Minister Sajjan, for this investment in aviation. Canada's economy and people need a competitive and economically resilient aviation sector. Since the start of the pandemic, our airports have suffered $6 billion in revenue losses and taken on an additional $3 billion in debt. And that's related solely to the pandemic, not to invest in our future. So investments from the federal government, like the one announced today, will go such a long way to help our industry start to recover. Providing this funding to regional airports and airlines is critical as we work to rebuild connectivity both here in British Columbia, but also throughout Canada. Competitive air service and strong connectivity is fundamental to both leisure and business travel, increasing tourism and trade opportunities in our communities and connecting them to our major hubs. It boosts jobs and our regional economic development. The Regional Air Transportation Initiative, which we've called RADI, was created to help airports and our regional airlines reconnect communities and mitigate the severe impact the pandemic has had on the aviation business. The $206 million that's being invested across Canada has been put to good use, and we're certainly seeing that here today. So Minister Sajan, thank you to the Government of Canada for the support for BC's aviation sector and airports today, but also across the country. Our airports look forward to getting back to business and being the economic spark plugs for our communities once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Manette. Appreciate that. I'd like to thank Minister Sajan for his investment in Kelowna and his continued support for the economic development of British Columbia. The aviation sector is essential for Canada's post-pandemic recovery of revenue generation for local businesses, maintaining and creating jobs for residents, and encouraging investment in the local community. This funding supports not only the recovery of YLW, but also our surrounding community as we recover from the economic challenges of COVID-19. And that concludes today's event. Thank you for attending, everyone.